Thank you so much for joining us today for another episode of Women Who Lead. And this month is one of my favorite months of all. And it's because of several reasons. Number one, it's spring. So you can see us full, with those beautiful colors. So we're celebrating spring. We're also celebrating Diversity Month. And I absolutely love it. That's what I do. And I want to acknowledge all of you for the beauty and uniqueness that you bring to the world, because you can see it in spring too, right? So I love that. And it is also the Fair Housing Month, where we commemorate the passage of the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which is very, very dear to my heart, and the important work that must be continued to educate and to reaffirm our commitment to making unfair housing history in this country. And I love that slogan, which is NAR's slogan, making unfair housing history in this country. I love it, right? And I'm excited to introduce three dynamic women today who will inspire me, they motivate, and they're making an impact on their organizations as well as the communities they serve. Each lead with conviction, they lead with passion, and they create environments where agents and employees feel valued, empowered, and with the ability to achieve success. I'm your host, Teresa Palacio-Smith, and my family's originally from Colombia, South America. I am Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer for HomeServices of America and HSF affiliates. And every time that we get together with friends and families and acquaintances, we always have a cup of coffee, un cafecito. So that's what we're doing today. And this show is a very passion for me. And it's now also a podcast. So I want to make sure you all download the podcast. I'm going to tell you how to do it after the show. But today I have three very special guests with me that I want to tell you about. And I love the fact they're very impactful. They're all community activists. They're very involved in the communities they serve and also in the work of diversity. So first of all, Ann King. Ann King is president of the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Florida Network Realty. And in her role, she leads the firm's brokerage division with 9 offices and over 500 agents. Today is one of the top 25 companies in the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Network, and also oversees the company's marketing, digital innovation, and brokerage expansion efforts. She also works along with founder Linda Scherer, which we had on our show last month, on building new builder business. And I can't wait to talk to you about that, Ann, because there's still a lot of interest in the new construction arena and how you got into it, as well as working on the community philanthropy. And so thanks, Ann, for being here today. Really excited to have you on the show. Judie Parks. So Judie is the principal broker and co-owner and the relocation director. That's close to my heart. Relocation is part of my blood, of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Partners Realty and Parks and Weisberg Realtors. And she is a native from Louisville. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
I love it and loves the city, dedicating a large portion of her sales career to working with both relocating buyers and selling them on the attributes of her hometown. And we were just there with the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Convention. And I have to tell you, what a beautiful place. We got to visit Churchill Downs, so I can understand how you love that city. It's absolutely magnificent. And Judie's another community fighter and is president with GLAR. She's going to tell us what those acronyms means in a minute. She led a task force to help realtors make a difference in her community due to past consequences of redlining. We're going to talk about what redlining meant. And that's perfect with us because of the initiatives of Fair Housing Month that we're celebrating as well. So welcome, Judie, to our show. And then Teresa Williamson. Teresa Williamson is the president of Roberts Brothers, which is located in Mobile, Alabama. Teresa runs one of the strongest offices in the Mobile real estate market with a strong presence and known for their community involvement. And that is so true. Where I see those beautiful yellow signs, right? Teresa was the owner and manager for the Roberts Brothers Saraland franchise location. And over the course of 5 years, she also managed the West Mobile operation, where she grew the agent count to over 100 agents and then became president of the Roberts Brothers. She has a passion for leadership along with volunteering with in the community and giving, which we'll learn more about in a few moments. But I love the motto of Roberts Brothers, which I know I saw and I read about, that the bedrock of our business is to live and give to our community. simply as life happens. This is our why. And I know that once we know the why, the how becomes so easy. And Teresa Williams impacts her agents and the community every day. So welcome, Teresa, to the show. You can all see why these women really are impactful leaders. So let's get started. First of all, the first question I always ask everyone, because I'm always interested, is how did you transition from, did you get into real estate by choice or by chance? And I'm going to start off with Judie. Tell me a little bit about how you got into real estate.
Okay, so I am a computer engineer by degree. I worked for Humana and for Ford Motor Company in Louisville, Kentucky. My family has always been in real estate, so everybody's kind of surprised that wasn't my natural path, but it was not my natural path. And when I wanted to leave Ford Motor Company, but stay in Louisville because I love my hometown, I really do. I kept interviewing and I interviewed and everybody, whether they knew my family history or not, kept saying the same thing, which is, have you ever considered sales? Have you ever considered sales? And my answer was always no. And can I say it? No. And finally I talked to my mom, she's Pat Parks. So she's the Parks in Weisberg. And she said, let's go get you tested. I did the personality test they did back then. And there were a few things that probably weren't the ideal for me. I'm an engineer, so there's a little bit of that, but overall it was great. And I got into real estate and I did focus, as I told Teresa, on relocation. So I came from the background, very corporate background, and it really helped because, corporations have a lot of rules and they're rigid and there's no emotion and, so all of that. So I use that to my advantage and plus the love of my city. And that's really how I grew my business and how my local business grew out of it. So that's actually how I got into this. It was not because it was a family business. Someone else just kept pushing and I finally just listened and never looked back.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that you have that combination of background in engineering, the corporate side, because it really does come handy in the relocation business, as well as that you're a second generation realtor, right? In your family, which is absolutely wonderful as well. So I love all of that. How about you, Teresa? How'd you get started?
I was living in Oklahoma and had worked with some family on some projects and had just a piqued interest in real estate. And whenever I moved back home to Mobile, the mortgage industry had collapsed. And, I had a friend who encouraged me to get into real estate and absolutely was not interested. I'm similar to Judie. That was not something that interested me. However, I wanted to be on the valuation. I wanted to be on the appraisal side of that. But because of the way that the industry had changed, there really were no opportunities there. And so I thought, well, maybe I should think about this. And as I got into real estate and began to work with first-time buyers and a mentor who was absolutely wonderful and a fantastic broker who really took time to invest in me, it became that opportunity to serve because you are providing such a service to people that's what afforded me the opportunity. And then the growth opportunities, I found that I loved being behind people and seeing their growth happen. And so that transitioned so easily into this world of real estate. So that's a little bit of my story.
Are you originally from Mobile?
I am.
So, you'll find that most Southerners like me, even though I was born in New York, I was raised in the South. Well, you can't take the South out of us. We got to always be right.
No, and the little bit of accent that the Southern that we have, when I lived in Oklahoma, I would go to the grocery store and they'd say, would you please come back through my lane the next time so that I could hear you talk, and I felt like a little celebrity.
I love it. I love your accent. Absolutely. How about you, Ann? How'd you get into real estate?
Honestly, mine was by accident also. In Southern California, when my husband and I were living there, I was in fashion merchandising and design and worked in buying offices for large retail companies. My husband's career took us back to the South, to Florida. And there's not a lot of fashion at the beach in Florida. You wear flip-flops and shorts a lot. So I stayed home with the kids for a few years and just was not great at that. I needed a little bit more. So someone mentioned that you always know what's happening in your neighborhood with real estate, who's moving, who's coming, because I would refer business to her. So she brought me in to get going in the business. That was over 20 years ago. And just went from there. My husband called it a hobby. And within a year and a half, I was closing 10 million back in the 90s. And that was really good.
Probably making more money than he was, right? Well, one thing that you also, I love the fact that you had the merchandising and the sales background as well, because that really comes very beautiful, with new construction. It's a beautiful transition into that, really understanding how to merchandise your home, how to get it ready for sale. So I think it was a perfect marriage. So let's go into, as far as Fair Housing Month, you heard me say, this is probably my favorite month of all, primarily because being Colombian, being the background, I realized shortly after that my family was actually steered into our community. Although back when we were buying our home, we were just so elated to even find that first home. And Teresa, you already mentioned how it meant so much to you to help first-time home buyers, and what a passion it is when you help somebody find that first home. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing to celebrate diversity and fair housing this month.
Well, we actually, just like Judie said, we had a company sales meeting today, and our career development director brought some attention to that. I asked her to speak a little bit about it. So she shared, of course, the NAR scenarios where you could test yourself to see, have you slipped or fallen into some category that you may not be aware of, that really can bring more relevancy to today's industry, and how we do want to treat people fairly and make sure that everything is open for all of our sellers and buyers to pursue whatever they'd like to do in real estate. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. And then, additionally, we are sending out those reminders. We're sending out some of those videos that we've all seen that are, a little bit troubling, that we never would expect anybody in our industry to propagate something like that. So we are really trying to just bring that awareness back to people again this month.
And I love it. And one of the things too that happens is that people don't realize that they have a lot of unconscious bias and implicit bias that kind of takes over. And so those biases are based on stereotypes that we may have of different situations or things that we were exposed to or not even know or aware of. And so I think it's beautiful that you're sharing videos, you're sharing education. And I think NAR does a fantastic job with the materials and resources they offer today to allow us to really learn about and communicate how to be better realtors and how to abide by the law. And Anne, let's go with you and tell me a little bit about what you're doing as well.
So we do it all year long. We have a wonderful DEI committee. We started in 2020.
You do. I love your committee. I've been invited several times to speak. I love it.
Yeah, so Margaret is awesome. She leads that up. We just started our agent committee that's also working, and on the agents are really excited and doing things in ramps and Habitat for Humanity. So we're definitely into the communities that need our support. We do have a book club going on as we're reading some books that are relevant to making sure that the one that we're reading right now is 8 Ways to Support Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for All. So I feel like we encompass it in every aspect. This month, we do have in our community within Florida Network Realty social media posts every week that talk about a different part of diversity for them to remember in their practice. And then we do have it to the customers also on our public facing one.
And I love it. And thank you so much for promoting Johnny Johnson's book, as well as Dr. Michael Weber, who wrote the book. Actually got the chance to so a real shout out is that to Johnny for I want to thank him for allowing me to write the foreword on that book. And so it's an exciting book that really talks about how to do it in harmony, right? How to do diversity, equity, and inclusion in harmony from athletics to engineering. So it's two different perspectives of two individuals that came together that were as different as night and day, and how they were able to solve problems, especially after the George Floyd event that happened a couple of years ago. And with that, Judie, tell me a little bit about your work. And I love as president of GLAR, and tell us about what the acronym means for those who are not aware, right? And the work that you are doing in the redlining, especially as you find in a lot of deeds and also in a lot of cities that are still kind of showing those effects of past laws.
So GLAR is the Greater Louisville Association of Realtors, and I was the president of the board September 2020 to September basically 2021. And during that, which was also COVID, so there was a lot of challenges going on, but my main initiative as the board president was to really bring forward into the light, so to speak, let's not live in the shadows anymore, and discuss and educate our 5,000 agents on the problem of redlining. And our city has a big problem. You know, I mean, I don't, not every city does. Ours does. You know, we are one of them. And one of the things that made me so just really encouraged and proud was that my brother headed up the task force for me. He's my business partner and he's involved with the board. He headed up the task force, but the task force wanted to actually continue past my year, and the new board president agreed, and we made it an official committee. So it's now a committee of our board. It will stay there. So that was really encouraging. And the group of people that we have that are working on it, you know, we're really trying to make very tangible ways to show growth, right, to change this. And one of the things that I try to tell them up front, and this is this is such a hard conversation, is that until we are willing to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I did this, whether I did this or not, right? I played a part of this, whether I knew it or not. And until we can do that and say that, and then try to move forward, we can't move forward. We cannot keep hiding. Well, that happened 200 years ago, or that happened 45 years ago, or I didn't do that. The truth is, we did do it, whether we knew it or not. And we have to just accept that. And it's not a judgment. It's not saying we're terrible people, but we'll never move forward if we can't accept that. And we have to be brave enough to have the hard conversations and to know it's going to hurt. You're going to get angry. You're going to read The Color of Law. And if you haven't read Cast, I mean, if you read these books, it's going to make you want to vomit in a trash can. That's my brother's favorite saying. And it is. And you're going to get angry. And you should get angry. We need to get angry, and we need to understand just how horrific it was, but that it was by design. This is not an accident, right? That's the hardest thing for any of us to swallow. And I think that NAR has done a great job of coming out, and they've admitted, right? We had bad practices. And I think we all have to do it at the board level, and all have to stand up and say, we didn't mean to, but we had bad practices, and this is what we're doing to help, right? So whether it's with the task force, whether it's with looking at your own, you know, company or the other companies, and making sure that they are not, as Teresa said, implicit bias, right? That they're not doing something unintentionally just because it's the way that it was always done, or it's what they were always told, right? And you know, we're always told if it was in the newspaper, just because you didn't read the newspaper, you're still supposed to know the expressway is going in behind the house. Right? Well, it's the same thing. Just because no one's come up to you and said, do you realize you have an implicit bias against whatever? It's not the get out of jail free card, right? You know, you have them. Go do the homework and figure out what they are to try to overcome them. So that's my soapbox.
No, and I love your passion about it. Thank you so much for bringing such attention to an important cause. And the fact that for those that are not familiar with what redlining is or was, I think we've all heard about it, but it was a practice that was done that banks denied mortgages to anyone, developers, individuals who wanted to buy homes, and they would go in and outline the cities and major cities today. So you said, Judie, our city has a major, Atlanta has a major red line. Most major cities were red line, where they would designate areas for red would be for impoverished Black only communities. And think about what this signifies. Green was for wealthy white communities, Caucasian communities. Blue was for blue collar workers, all of these zones. And if you wanted to buy or sell as a realtor a home to somebody that didn't fit that criteria, you could lose your real estate license. You would not be given a loan. And so it was very difficult for anyone to be able to do business. And it was a practice that was well known through NAR. I mean, they knew about it. And that's why, Judie, you said, knowing our past, helps us know how to move forward and to correct those and move forward in the future. And I think it's really great, a lot of the work. And you're right, Teresa, a lot of the great work that we see NAR doing with a lot of their programs, assimilations that allow us to learn from what is steering, what is denial of equal services, which today we still still see our agents and realtors do. We've got to change that. So education is key. As we educate, we learn, and that's how we move forward. So thank you again for answering that question. Now, I really want to know about moving forward leadership, and also this can be kind of real estate related or leadership related. What do you see that as we look at the future, our biggest shifts might be, that we need to be aware of or be prepared for? And Judie, I'm going to ask you this question, and then Teresa, and anyone else that wants to kind of chime in.
I do think that one of the biggest shifts is kind of along the same line that we were just discussing. And that is that we are going to have to find a way to bring up, all boats, bring up this boat, right? We have the wealth gap it's incredible. And people don't understand that. So when you're talking about redlining, it isn't just what was done to them. It's what they were then denied down the road, right? We all know this. Wealth is created by owning real estate. I mean, it's a proven fact, and they were denied that. So it's not just they were denied that one house or that one loan. They were denied to be able to do what we have been able to do, which is to grow wealth. And so I think that one of the biggest changes that we're going to see is we are all going to have to try to find a way to help them gain the wealth that they were denied.
Well, generational wealth, Judie, is what you're
Yes.
talking about, because when you buy a home in the course of any time frame, you assume an equity, right? And it depends on your area. And right now, some areas of the country are experiencing huge gaps in equity growth, and others are maintaining. But in general, affordability is a huge factor. I talk about it all the time. And that's something that we are going to also see, in my opinion, an issue on affordability in housing, because I don't know how today in many markets, I know in some of the markets you're in, how do you even purchase a home if you're a first time home buyer, because of the cost of even renting initially and saving up for it, and the cost of buying a new home, and the current market conditions that we're in, where we're fighting on inventory. So those shortages. Anyone else interested in talking about that, of what else they see or shifts that they might see that happening in the future?
I think, my perspective is going to be a little bit in the way that we engage our consumers. It changes. And, speaking to exactly what Judie's talking about, or even in our market, the way that it is now, first time, second time owners, those types of things, people that are moving through the property ladder. I think that the way that we engage the consumers and the expectations that we, have for ourselves, that code of ethics that we talk about, we have our own internal code of ethics at Roberts Brothers that we review with our agents every year, so that we establish that basis of how we're going to treat and engage each other as well as that consumer. So I think that, as we see shifts in that, I think that the level of expectancy with our professionalism, now that some of these things are even more relevant and talked about on a day-to-day basis, we're going to have to do better with our engagement.
Thank you, Teresa. I love that. All right, let's shift into leadership, because all of you are leaders. And one of the things that I really found very powerful when I was on my road to leadership is I would look at women like you that were in president positions and want to do that. I wanted to hear, and as a minority and someone that wasn't always given confidence with my family, in my family, right? I wasn't given that. What would you tell others that may want to follow in your path into leadership? And what's the good and the bad? Because sometimes people think, oh, it's all glory, but there are not always easy paths to get there. So tell us, Anne, let me start with you. How, what kind of recommendations would you give to somebody that wants to do what you're doing today?
I think when you lead with your heart and your gut, the people around you feel that energy and they want to be part of that energy. And I think it is important to realize that we can lay the path, we can help with the training, with the education, with the coaching, with the helping mentor and develop. But it's really up to that individual on where they want to soar to. And we can't take it personally when they don't follow or listen to everything that you're trying to coach them on. I think that's the probably the toughest, like, wait, if we did it like this, it would have worked, but everybody has to take their own path, but you can help guide them.
I love it. How about you, Teresa?
I think being in this role, it allows us, and Judie and myself, if I'm speaking for all of us, to be the face of the vision of the company and where we want to go. And to Ann's point, when you have such a team around you that feel engaged and that feel like they're very motivated by catching that vision, I think that is what, drives our success. And I think that, this is just a natural transition for us, right, ladies, because of where we have been. And it's just that people have seen us, that we can take a lead on something. And I don't know that it's something that can be taught. I think that it is developed as we grow along in our roles.
So you like I like the fact that you can develop it, right? I think that is so true. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be innate, but you have to have a passion for it, and you can develop those skills. And sometimes I know that when I was trying to get into leadership, I remember someone telling me, you should take this course or you should do this. And I was like, oh my God, what do I have to do? But that really was the best advice. So if somebody is telling you that, don't take it as a negative thing. Take it as a positive and do it. Just do what you can to better yourself, because I know that is in the end the best answer you can have and the best thing you can do for yourself. Even Mr. Buffett says it himself. The best thing you can do for yourself is educate yourself, right? Judie, how about you?
So there's a couple things. So number one, I think that passion, absolutely. And as Ann said, if you're leading from your heart, okay, if you're authentic and true, I think that's the number one thing a leader has to be. And I think it's also important that that leadership is not a popularity contest. I mean, it's not, right? One of the hardest things that I had to do for the board presidency and my own company was to be the one that had to keep saying, you got to put on your mask. No, you can't come into the office, or no, I knew they were not going to be happy, right? Who wants to stay at home? But, no open houses and turning off this. And I think that what people don't recognize about leadership is that is the hardest part. Is there a hard part? There's a very hard part. And that's that, for a fact that to do the right thing many, many times is going to do the most unpopular thing, but you have to do it. And it's really no different than being a parent, right? I mean, it's really no different than being a best friend. You have to do the hard thing. And so that's one thing that I would say about leadership. And the other thing is, you cannot do it for the title. You can't do it for the money, whatever, right? You have to do it because you really want to serve and you believe that this is your way to help people. Okay. You can't have a hidden agenda. It doesn't matter if you're doing it for on the board of a charity, or if you're on your board at for real estate, or if you're the leader of your company. You've got to come at it with a pure heart and know that you're there for everybody, and everything has to be good, for the majority of the people. And you have to walk your talk. Okay. And I will say that is the one thing I promise you, if you ask anybody, they may not even like me, and that's okay. I promise you that is the one thing they will say. I walk my talk. I don't say one thing and do another. And to Teresa's point, I think the other shift that we're going to see, and we all need to do this, we have to be the change we want to see. And that means we're going to have to start looking at the bad actors in our field and saying, stop. We have to quit being so nice. We have to quit turning the blind eye. And we do that. We all do it because, right, we're nice people. That's why the job we're in, but we have to. So I think that's the other thing about leadership is that's leadership right there. You don't have to have the title of leadership. That is what real leadership is is paving the way.
I love that. And it's so true. Sometimes we are challenged as leaders and owners, and I've heard this from so many individuals that, you've got a top producer, you've got a great, a star, but they don't abide by the rules. They're not practicing fair housing. They're, letting things get by. Right. And those are at that time you have to say, and we had a situation where somebody sent me a question and said, hey, one of our agents asked the following question. They felt like this was an issue because of the clients that they may serve. What do you think? And I'm like, under NAR, we're realtors. And under realtors, our fiduciary responsibility is, even though it's under the Fair Housing Act, it's under gender and sexual identity, we protect those and we provide fair housing for all. And so if that's an issue, then they may not be someone that you want to keep with your company, because that is our fiduciary responsibility as NAR, as realtors. And so you have to sometimes take those terms, because that's the only way we're going to stop unfair housing practices. Mm-hmm. All right. I love what I'm hearing altogether. And I really want to thank all of you. Let's start also, Anne. I know that for those of you who really love the fact that they're in luxury or also new construction, which is difficult today because we need more new construction. We need more new home starts. We need more affordable homes. A lot of times it makes it very difficult. Cities, taxes, the way that, we have to incorporate. Tell us how you got into that just quickly so that we can learn for anybody else that would want to start and maybe get involved in that arena.
I think it's almost like any other part of the business. You have to know the market. You have to research the market. You have to be able to speak to the market and speak to that clientele that's going to understand what you're delivering to them. Your marketing pieces, how you present yourself, all of that comes into looking the look and talking the talk. And if you do the research and do the time, you can be in that market.
And that's perfect, because I know that when I was with Georgia Properties, Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Georgia Properties, Lori Lane was very involved in, and is very involved in community new construction. But she had to go and meet and learn. And at first, she would not get every project that she got into. And today, they pretty much dominate the Atlanta landscape when it comes to, and the Georgia landscape when it comes to new construction. So really understanding, studying others, and getting mentors that can help you, and following people. I always say, follow someone that is really good at it. And when I say follow them on Instagram, follow them, read books, all of that. You don't necessarily have to have them mentor you. That's how you do it, right? And this show is part of, when I explained how I came about the show, one of the things I said, it was because I love superpowers and superwoman, right? Tell me, what is your superpower? Judie, I'm going to start with you, Teresa, and then Anne. What do you think your superpower is that you can express, and why is that important?
My superpower, when I first got into real estate, they called me Agent 99. So I'm going to date myself in case you don't know how old I am. It's Get Smart days. Okay. And the person who ran relocation, then he named me that because any problem property, they gave it to me because I could get it sold. So I think one of the greatest strengths that I have still to this day is that I learned how to take my engineering degree, which really is just teaching you how to think, and break down everything into a system that you can then solve the problem. I'm able to do that with anything I have to solve the problem. And that's really what I am. I'm a problem solver for my clients. It may be that they want a certain house. It may be, how do I get out of this house because I want my lifestyle changed? That's my super strength. I really listen to them. And sometimes, believe it or not, I keep them in their house. I've had people that used to say to me, they go, you're the only realtor I know that's talked me into not selling my house. But sometimes that's not really the answer. They think it is. But when you peel the onion and you listen to their problem, you're like, okay, so really it's, if I could get you refinanced and I could save you this or whatever, you'd want to stay here. And they're like, oh yeah, I didn't know that was an option. So that's my superpower, is that I really just listen and I'm able to break it down into little tiny pieces to help them.
Oh, what a great, I love that agent 99. I love that. It's great. And the fact that you are a forever agent, it's really about helping the client. And for Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices and all of our companies, that is our tagline. It's, we are forever agents. So I think that's fabulous that you are recommending hey, it's not the right time. Let's keep your house. Let's just expand it, or let's do this. I love it, Judie. How about you, Teresa?
Well, I had to think about that for a little while. I think I'm very much like Judie in that you may know a lot of things about me, but fairness is going to be the top rung for me. But if I'm thinking about a superhero, I went to the Disney, The Incredibles. And so I would have to say Elastigirl would probably be my superpower. My daughter, her friends always tell me that I sound like Miss Incredible with the voice. And then, because you have to be very flexible and you have to be able to move into different situations and sometimes cloak whatever your appearance is in order to get where you need to be and accomplish the goal. And so I think that so much of what we do is that we have to stretch and we have to be able to be flexible. So I'm going to call myself Elastigirl.
I love that. That's great. And it's so true in our industry. We have to be flexible and pivot. I mean, look at what COVID did to us. And yet we were able to say, okay, we got to pivot, do things a little different, be flexible, do things, like Judie were saying, just to make sure that we are always helping in that dream of home ownership. How about you, Anne?
Well, I didn't pick a specific superhero. I looked at it as like, what did I think my inside superhero was?
And that's perfect.
And I laugh because Linda and Christy always said this about me. I take our technology tools, but I still think like an agent. So I'm able to teach agents how to utilize it to get the usage, rate up and be able to have them have business happen with it. So when they're overwhelmed with technology, they'll always say, talk to Anne. She'll tell you what to do to make business happen with that tool. So that
is a huge superpower because when technology first started to kind of become part of our world, I remember agents breaking down and crying that's how long I've been in the business, and crying because, how do I get online? Like, how do I turn on my computer and all? Do y'all remember? I mean, yes. I've been in the business that long to where now I feel so comfortable with technology for the most part. There's still things I need to learn every time. There's always something new, but it's so true. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful quality to have. So let's talk about mentorship, because I know, Teresa, you've been very involved in community events like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, which also is very special to me. And mentorship has also meant a lot to you as well. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm not currently a big right now, but being able to be paired with a child who, you don't have any expectations of them, and they certainly don't have anything of you other than that you're going to just be present and, be able to be available for them. And so I think that was just such a wonderful time. And then moving forward, I mentor a lot of young adults as they're trying to make decisions about college and life and real estate and whatever those things may be. I think being able to just be available is really the thing that stands out the most to me. They just need somebody that's going to listen to them. And if you can find yourself available for 15, 30 minutes, it's like our accountability partnership. You're just available to talk. And I think that's where those relationships develop. And I think that for me is something that I truly love.
Oh, anyone else, Judie?
So I will say I have a bias, so don't be shooting me. I probably mentor more young women and all women than anything. I did raise 3 sons, so I mentored them too, but I do have a passion for women because I just feel like in some ways we're underserved, that it's just from a very young age. So I've done a lot with Volunteers of America. That's one of my big charities, and did a women's empowerment series for them. And mentorship, I want to say, I've mentored agents here and things like that, but I think also mentorship, sometimes people think it's bigger than it is, like it's this big grandiose gesture, but, I have been so fortunate that my sons, there's there's a few of their girlfriends that they met at a young age, and everybody's life changes, right? But they have stayed a part of my life. And they do look at me, as they would say, as a mentor or as someone that they can still talk to. And so really, I just looked at it as a friendship. right? So I think sometimes mentorship can be, doesn't have to be such a big thing. It's just really listening and being a friend and being there to help them, make decisions. And sometimes it's really just listening and not even opening your mouth, right? And the other thing about mentorship is, and this is why I did get involved with different types of leadership, whether it's at the board and volunteering at Volunteers America, is because I do think that if they don't see us, then we can't help them. It gives them hope, if that makes any, it just helps them, right? And so we have to be pretty visible. So that's the other thing.
It really does. I could not agree with you more. And I love that because you don't necessarily have to have official mentorship. I've read that about so many, in so many books, right? That it's just about really kind of guiding and helping and just being there for somebody who needs you, right? How about you, Anne?
Well, I think that we work a lot with the children networks here, the Dreams Come True and the St. Jude, and on committees there. And with that, we work with the Junior Service League juniors, so the girls that are going through the high school, and they're trying to find their way. And it's such a tough time for middle school and high school girls to they're gaining their confidence, but one little thing can knock them the wrong direction. So I agree. You're there to listen, to give them something to aspire to be, that is possible for them. So we do, that's basically where my primarily is the high school.
I love that. What a beautiful thing. And it's so true because when I was going in high school, my mother was ill with heart conditions. And again, you don't ever realize the tough times that people are going through, and just having someone that's there that can talk to them and that they can see as a leader will help you go through those tough times. And in minority communities, for sure, I know that happens quite a bit. I know we're running out of time. Can you believe it? It's been so much fun. I've enjoyed talking to all of you so much. There's just two more questions I want to ask, because I think it's really important for us to be able to pass any books or any films or anything that we have found that has been helpful to us that we can recommend. So let's talk about that. Any books or recommendations that you have of films, podcasts that you listen to, because I think that's really important for others to learn about. And then before I do that, I do want to say, Teresa, I still love our AP. We were accountability partners. For those of you who are not familiar with what an accountability partner is, DM me on our Women Who Lead website. I can get you connected to somebody that can help you. It's the best thing ever because you get to learn about other people in your circle that you may not know or not be exposed to, but you are accountable every single day. And Gino Blafari, our CEO at HomeServices America, was the one that first started this. And initially I thought, oh, this is going to be so hard to do. But it has been the best thing for me because I've learned so much from all the people that have been my AP partners. And in fact, Richard Grimes is mine this month, Teresa, by the way. So, so anyway, if we can go into books. So Judie, let me start with you.
Okay. So I have 2 books and I have a podcast. So the first one is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And the other one is also by Brene Brown, and it's Dare to Lead. And if you're not familiar with her work, highly encourage you to do so. She also has the new one out, which is called Atlas of the Heart, which I will tell you, I think every high school student should have to read. It's basically an encyclopedia of your emotions and your feelings and why you feel it to only help you get better. The podcast is called We Can Do Hard Things. And I found it, actually one of the young ladies that I was telling you about, she sent it to me on a very specific topic, but I liked it so much. I went back and listened to all of them and have continued to do so. And it's a great podcast. I think it speaks really to women, but it also talks, it really opens your eyes to the LGBTQ community, which I think we could all, understand that better. And it's just a great podcast. I highly recommend it. It really has opened my eyes and my heart, and it's helped me, I feel like, to be a better person.
Oh, love it. And Brene Brown, by the way, Atlas of the Heart also is on Netflix. For those of you who like that, I'm not a lover of book reading because I have ADD, but I love visual things. And she has a great, it's on Netflix. The Atlas of the Heart. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. So y'all watch it too. How about you, Anne?
Dare to Lead. I love that's one of mine.
It's an awesome book.
One thing that I received from Linda Scherer back when she finally convinced me to manage our St. Augustine office was by John Gordon, The Energy Bus. And that office was an office that just was not getting anywhere. We had 10 agents and they couldn't decide if they wanted to keep it open or not. I read that book, and within a few years, we were up to 60 agents and growing, and opened a second office in St. Augustine. So that book has just always been just a mindset change for me. And I recommend that to anyone who's thinking about getting into leadership on how to even get started doing that.
Oh, a great book, Getting the Right People on the Right Seat at the Bus. I love it. How about you, Teresa?
I have Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, who are former Navy SEALs, and they have Echelon Front is their business, and Extreme Ownership is a book that I have read multiple times and have listened to it on Audible, and very much am a fan of theirs. I love that they, take what they do, their service, translated into now service for businesses and communities. So I would say that Extreme Ownership is my book.
Oh, well, you know what? Gina loves that book as well. I have not had a chance to listen to it. Again, I'm an Audible person, so I am going to do that. That'll be my next read. All right. As we wrap up, last question, favorite quote. Tell me, as we leave it, I always like to leave people with an up, So what's your favorite quote? I'm going to start with you, Teresa, and then Anne, and then Judie.
So a quote, and I use this year with my management team and even with our agents, decisions determine direction, and direction determines destination.
Oh, that's very deep. Wow, I love that. How about you?
I am what you focus on expands.
And you know what? It's so true. That was another Gino quote. He talks about that. What you focus on expands, right? Which is good and bad, right? What you focus on expands. So what you focus on better be good, right? Because that will definitely expand. How about you, Judie?
It's not enough to not participate. You must take a stand. And I've taught my boys that's actually my quote, just tell you, from the time they were little. And basically what it means is, silence is a decision, and you can't just stand by and go, I didn't participate, Mom. I wasn't part of that, Mom, or, whatever. No, if you see it and you don't do anything about it, it's not right. So you have to take a stand.
That's great. Thank you so much. I love that all of you have taken a stand today and that you have shared your insights with all of our audience. I'm so impressed with all of your backgrounds and all the great work that all of you are doing in your community and the impact that you've made with our agents across the country. I found this great quote that I thought was so perfect, describing all of you, right? Our leaders, before you're a leader, success is about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is about growing others. And there's no doubt that all of you are growing others today. Thank you again for joining. You can catch our newest podcast, which will drop on April 13th, and it's going to feature real estate veterans, Candace Adams, Mary Lee Blaylock, and Joan Doctor. And our next live show is going to air on May 4th, and it's going to feature the advocates. So you're not going to want to miss that show. And that's going to be on Facebook Live. Hopefully we'll have no issues like we did today on the technical side, but we will be airing this show, as you know, later today. And as we say goodbye, remember my favorite saying, but always bring other women up the ladder with you as you climb to the top. Wishing all of you a happy Ramadan, a happy Passover, and Easter, whichever you celebrate. Until next time, keep achieving, and we will see you in May. Bye-bye, everybody.